Peace. Welcome to Not Church. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. And all the rest of the holidays. Happy holidays. I'm Peter Panagore, MDiv, and we're away today with family until after the new year. So stay tuned this week for pre-recorded programming. But stay tuned right now, because here's a holiday gift from me to you. Years ago, on Christmas Day, I promised to produce a video asking, did Ebenezer Scrooge have a near-death experience? It looks that way to me. So after this video, tell me what you think. What do you think? Did he or didn't he? Now, to keep this brief, you'll need to be familiar with the book or films A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, or maybe refresh yourself in your memory, or you've seen it 1,000 times. Did Ebenezer Scrooge have a near-death experience? That's the question for today. For many people, A Christmas Carol, the book A Christmas Carol, defines the Christmas spirit, the true spirit of Christianity, the true spirit of light and love. This is true for me, too. It defines the Christmas spirit for me. So let's begin at the end of it. He doesn't call them chapters. Charles Dickens calls them staves. We're going to begin in stave 5 at the very end, and this last chapter called The End of It. Let's begin in the end. Yes, this is a quote. Yes, and the bedpost was his own. The bed was his own, and his room was his own. Best and happiest of all, the time, capital T, the time before him was his own to make amends in. He has an opportunity in life to make amends for the bad karma of his past. The time before him was his own to make something new out of by choice. I quote, I will live in the past, the present, and the future, Scrooge says, all capitalized, past, present, and the future. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. Scrooge repeated as he scrambled out of bed, the spirits, capital S, the spirits of all three shall strive within me. Oh, Jacob Marley, heaven and Christmas. Oh, Jacob Marley, heaven and the Christmas time be praised for this. I say it on my knees, old Jacob Marley, on my knees. Scrooge awoke from his night, transformed, and thenceforth everyone who knew him saw the change of his heart. Scrooge was better than his word, quote. He did it all and infinitely more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. He became as good as a friend, as a good master, and as a good man as the good old city knew, or any other good old city or town or borough in the good old world. Good, good, good. Some people laughed to see the alteration in him, but he let them laugh, and he heeded them little, for he was wise enough to know that nothing ever happened on this globe for good, at which some people did not have their fill of laughter at the outset, and knowing that as such as these would be blind anyway, he thought it quite as well that they should wrinkle up their eyes in grins to have this malady in less attractive forms. So his own heart laughed, and that was quite enough for him. He lived in a world of blind people who could not understand his transformation, and it did him no harm that they laughed. His humility was strong enough inside himself to laugh with his own heart. He became a bit of a fool for God, a man with the God madness. First of all, Scrooge's after effect was a radical and permanent perception shift, lived out in public, in the public eye. He had this permanent change, and he lived it in his life. And everyone saw and grinned at him. Everyone knew, even though he never told his story. As far as we know, he kept the ghosts to himself. But he couldn't hide the truth of his change in life. End ears, we all know that we are radically unprepared and permanently changed. Try as I might, I couldn't hide my NDE. I didn't talk about it. I didn't let anybody know that's what happened to me. But I couldn't hide my transformation, my after effects. Even unsaid, a near-death experience shows itself in the way we live. Quote, and it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge. Scrooge kept his Christmas spirit throughout the year. It lived inside him. This transformation to love with a capital L, this transformation to love, which isn't romantic love, but includes romantic love and all kinds of love, is a transformational experiential experience, a transformational experiential and public. Love is transformational, experiential, and public. Going backward through the book, because now we know the ending of it. We know the transformation is real. And that's how NDEers really, that's what we have to prove our lives, our experience. I can't bring someone to the medical clinic because there was none for me back on the mountain. Lots of us die without medical aid. We can't prove it to anyone. So why talk about it? But our lives, well, our lives are transformed, and we live through this transformation, especially if we nurture it as Ebenezer Scrooge chose to nurture it. They would strive inside his heart, he said. Going backward to the book, we're going to do this in reverse order. Start at the good news and get back to the beginning and maybe land at the good news again. We learned that Scrooge, just before his living transformation on Christmas morning, in his bed, it's real, it's my bed, and they did it all in one night. Just before that, he was sitting on his grave in a possible future, in a disembodied, out-of-body experience. The lessons of that night, they all cracked his heart open on that grave when he said, just before he awoke, I will honor Christmas in my heart, not in his head, in his heart, which is the place of transformation for us. I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. And try to keep it all the year. Try, strive. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me, live within me, and move me. They will strive within me, and I will not shut out the lessons that they teach. Oh, tell me that I may sponge away the writing on this stone. He wants to erase his old self with this new transformed self, very much like a near-death experiencer who has a new identity and maybe tries to expunge the old self and actions. Scrooge chooses timelessness, past, present, and future, capital T. He chooses timelessness, which is a favorite subject of near-death experiencers. The past, the present, the future, only the now. Therefore, the three spirits shall strive in the present tense, shall strive, present, future tense, shall strive within me. It's going to be within me. I will not shut out the lessons that they teach not taught. He chooses to heed the lessons that they teach in the now, not in the past, in the taught, in the teach. The word teach is in the present tense. NDEs, at least mine, is present with me in the now, never not with me. Perception shift is radical, life renewed, a new person, a new way of being. NDE is a gift that gives lessons, new chances to make improved choices. NDE gives the lessons to make improved choices as we go along. Always getting better, always studying the heart within, always striving toward the place inside oneself where the three angels for him, the three ghosts, the three spirits, live inside him, even that one he feared the most. Now, what comes from his choice on the grave? He's on the grave and he makes this choice. What comes from the choice on the grave is shown in his life. It's generosity, caring, compassion, fun, kindness, and feeling and giving love and happiness, not just for himself, but to those around him. Tiny Tim does not die because of the intervention of this saint, this new Saint Scrooge. Near-death experiencers aren't fictional characters. Yes, we play our part inside this play of the world, but I'm not a fictional character. I'm a real human being. And we do the best we can to readjust to the world that we're in. It's not an easy thing. In fictional land, Scrooge had a lot of resources and he was able to save Tiny Tim. But all his change really came from within, and he had the resources to make the changes around him. We use the resources and the ears that we have to make the change around us. Maybe it's giving someone an orange because I have two, or half an orange because I only have one. Scrooge was given a vision of his own abject and dark death, third ghost, a vision of his own dark death. But as he goes through the experience, he doesn't know in the vision that the life he's witnessing is his own until seated on the grave in a dark cemetery. The mute ghost, I love the fact that the ghost is mute, can't tell Scrooge the answer to Scrooge's questions, can only show what could be. The mute, because it's not in the word yet, it's not in text yet, it's not written down yet, it's not become real yet. The mute ghost points to the name Ebenezer Scrooge on the headstone. And then Scrooge suddenly realizes he was a witness to his own life, an outsider of the scene. He'd been an outsider all night long, but in this case, he was an outsider to his own potential future. Now, being an outsider, being a witness, is common to NDEs. The future is always shifting. It's not really determined quite yet. There's all these probabilities, all these possibilities, and we make our choices and create our future. I saw my parents when they were dead, when I was dead. I saw my parents and parallel lives that they could live with me, with them in their lives, or with me dead and in heaven. Their future was not determined. Their probabilities existed. But my choice and their choices creates the world that they're in. The ending is the same. The ending is love and beauty, and you'll see for yourself the moment you awaken from this life into real life. No, it's common in NDEs for people to see their own dead bodies. For instance, Ebenezer Scrooge saw his grave. He didn't see his body, but he saw his grave, and this is a similarity. But, you know, I've got to wonder. I've got to wonder, how the dickens did Dickens know so much about NDE? This is a fundamental question. How did he know all of this? And the reflections in this story are too great to ignore. I mean, it's evident to me that he knew something about near-death experiences. What do you think? Did he have a friend? Did it happen to him? We know a few years later he was in a terrible train wreck where he could have died and saved a whole lot of people and became famous as a result of his heroism. But that happened after this story was written. But heroism, that's an after effect of near-death experience. Courage is an after effect. Now, Scrooge asks the third ghost, quote, "Are these the shadows of the things that will be?" Capital W on this. Or may, I'll come to may, that has a capital M on it too. So I'm going to read the line again, to the third ghost. Scrooge asks with a capital W and a capital M, and that puts it in this transcendental time, okay? Anytime Dickens uses a capital letter, it refers to God in some sense, or the divine in some sense. And where do you think I got the idea from? I took this idea from Dickens, among others, not just him, capitalizing those words that indicate the transcendental. So, but back to the story. Scrooge asks the third ghost, "Are these the shadows of the things that will be? Or are they shadows of things that may be only?" Or in modern English, may only be. Are they fate and destiny, or do I have control over what could happen? Are these going to happen, or might they not happen? The ghost remains mute and points to the name on the gravestone. Scrooge doesn't know. And he isn't told. The future is constantly in a flux of complexity that far exceeds my human understanding, or anyone's, because it's not just 8 billion humans interacting with all our individual choices here and nature having its own way with us. It's the whole universe of complexity that exceeds human understanding on the micro and the macro. How this whole thing works together, it's above my pay grade. I don't even try to figure it out. I just live with it. I live with the complexity, and the choices that I make in my life arise from the single choice I made when I was dead. Not so much unlike Scrooge. A single choice changes Scrooge's timeline and the timeline of everybody around him. In my Ice Climb NDE, I could choose the life I wanted to live. I was forced to make a choice. My single choice set my path. I chose love, like Scrooge. I did. I chose love. The second ghost gives him an out-of-body experience, wherein he sees and hears what people think and say of him, and sees and feels the cowering children want and need hidden beneath the robe of the ghost of Christmas present. It's not all just glorious cornucopia of love that Scrooge sees. It's the reality of human living and suffering, very much like an NDE, like my NDE. In his heart, in Scrooge's heart, he also wants to make merry with his nephew. He goes to a party and he wants to party. He's having a good time. He never has a good time. He never parties. But now, through this experience of the cornucopia of the Christmas spirit, he begins to break open a little bit. The vision that he experiences shows him himself. So many NDEers in our life reviews see ourselves in the context of the people in our lives. I saw what my sister and brothers thought of me in the times that I hurt them, and my friends too. I saw myself in the context of their lives. The ghost of Christmas past, skipping back to the previous previous chapter. The ghost of Christmas past shows us Scrooge's first out-of-body experience. That evening when he remembered again with the life review, the parental wound of rejection. When he's in the school classroom and is forgotten by his dad, the wound of rejection balanced against his sister's and eventually his fiance's love, and how choice by choice, out of his wound, he rejected love and created his future. He kept rejecting love by choosing his selfish desires until he imprisoned himself in darkness. The whole first chapter is all about this darkness. He's in his dark house and he's really mean. He's just all darkness, doesn't want to run a candle, more than a candle to see by. Scrooge re-experiences love in his first out-of-body experience. He watched himself as a witness in life, but also felt his feelings. Marley's ghost preceded all the other three. He had forged his chains in life, link by link, bad karmic choice by bad karmic choice. He was good at business choices, but learned too late that humankind was his business. Before people die, before death, we know that the dead come knocking on the door to lead us home. I've seen this in hospital settings. Maybe you've seen it yourself. The dead come to visit the living before they die. Marley leads Scrooge into mystical visions. I will live in the past, the present, and the future, Scrooge repeated as he scrambles out of bed. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. O Jacob Marley, heaven and the Christmas time be praised for this. I say it on my knees, old Jacob, on my knees. And it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge. I too choose to let the spirit of Christmas live in my heart and strive within me, and try to keep the spirit of Christmas alive throughout the year. This is my spiritual life. This is the quest of my life. And I found it in a Christmas carol. How about you? Are you with me in this same striving? So what do you think of a Christmas carol? Are you with me? Visit me at peterpanagore.love, and you can please subscribe and like, and thanks for your financial support. And I'll see you live again in the new year. Peace on earth. Peace on earth. And goodwill to all. Namaste, everybody.